So these are visions that God gives. And when God gives visions, you go back to the Father and you give it back. Father, we thank you for allowing us to pursue our passions and our dreams. We thank you for the vision. We thank you for the purpose of the vision. We ask that you touch this podcast and everybody who watches it. We ask that you reveal your love to them, your wisdom, and your knowledge to them. We ask that they open their hearts and their minds to what we have to say. And we hope that fruit bears from this and it encourages and helps improve other people's lives. In your name we pray. Amen. Yo, I wasn't bad.
No, that was great.
No. Snitches.
Hey, everybody. I am Andrea Richardson.
And I'm Jonathan Richardson.
And this is
Righteous Therapy. So the Lord kind of gave me a vision, I guess a couple months back, of how there's not enough positive things, I guess, that are going on the internet, and not just positive, but more of a visionary type situation dealing from a biblical aspect. And I sat down and talked with my wife, and that's how we kind of came up with this wonderful title, as in Righteous Therapy, which is simply a conversation with a biblical aspect up to it.
Yeah.
So, everybody thinks therapy, oh no, they're not therapists, they're not this, they're not that. But the first step of therapy is actually to have a conversation. And we want to have conversations, but with a biblical aspect to it. So that's kind of how everything started. What you think, love?
Yeah, because, it's a lot on social media and in the world. A lot of different opinions, a lot of different people proclaiming the way that, we should be perceiving things, we should be living, et cetera, et cetera. And, we just really felt like there aren't a lot of channels with, the biblical perspective from the Black married family, from, the Black married couple, the family. And so we wanted to, I don't know, just share our experiences, share our viewpoints, share, our beliefs, and really what we've been through over the last 7 years being married, and also just, what we think about what's going on in society and the culture. Because ultimately, we have to do something for the generation that's coming up behind us. And we can't continue to allow social media and mainstream media to raise the next generation. So we just thought we'd have our conversations, and hopefully whoever hears them can glean some insight and some wisdom from it. So we're really excited.
Yeah. And me being a photographer, there's a lot of things that I tell my clients of the importance of certain things, because nobody realizes how important a photo is until it's all you have left. So then the importance kind of sinks in. We get older in age, and then we're looking for those pictures of grandma when she was younger, or pictures of mom when she was younger. And the wonderful thing about technology is we're able to do things like this. So one of my goals is to also have a archive for my children. So when they're older, they can look back on this and say, I wonder what my father would have did. And they can look back on these videos and these podcasts and listen to what I would have done and my interpretations of it with a righteous mindset. And I know the later this world gets, the more evil it will become, because the Bible tells us this. So it's good just to have a basis, not only in the Bible, but also of what their father would have done. So it's another reason why we're doing this.
And this is actually our introductory episode, and we're doing it on a very special day, which is...
Do you know what today is? It's our anniversary.
Hey.
So yeah, man, anniversary. How long we been married, girl?
7 years.
7 years. 7 years. And it has been a wonderful... Most people get on here and be like, oh man, it has been this, and this, and this. It has been a wonderful experience. She has come in, she has integrated herself into my family with my wonderful 3 boys that I had from a previous marriage, which we'll dive into all those type of situations at a later time. And she brought me a beautiful 5-year-old daughter who's actually up front. And you may hear a little bit of TV sounds from her because she's up front watching it. And to be honest, we're not trying to have 100% production team and everything else. We're going to have real life situations.
Homegrown.
gonna have real life situations. So you may hear her come in and say, "Mommy, Daddy." You may hear her turn her TV up. You may hear her turn her TV down. But this is also the real life aspect of real life.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we find ourselves to where we're just making everything so beautiful, so this, so that, to where we're losing the realness of it. And this is the realness of it. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I have children. And sometimes they may come in, they may come out. So I was want you to invite you into the realest, probably one of the realest sides of podcasting that you'll see in a while. You know, what you say, wife?
Yeah. So, what we want to do today is we're going to introduce ourselves individually, talk a little bit about, who we are, who is Andrea, who is Jonathan. And we're also going to talk a little bit about who we are collectively, share a little bit of our origin story, which I think is really appropriate for it being our anniversary. And hopefully, we can end this episode with talking about, what the vision is and what we hope to do in the future and you know, all that jazz. So I'm gonna kick it over to my husband, the head.
Ooh,
Mhm.
with a setup like that, I mean, I don't know how to just jump right into it, I guess. But uh most people know me, well, in my local area, people know who I am. My name is Jonathan Richardson. I'm the owner of J Rock Photography. So, if you guys any photography needs, you can look at me at JRock_photography on Instagram. That's pretty much my name across all platforms. And the the guiding force behind me, and we'll jump into this one another time, is literally there was an experience that changed my life, and it changed my life for the better. And it was a experience that has ups and downs. It has, there was some hard times, there was some crying involved, and there was some understanding, trying to find understanding on these situations. But through that situation, God allowed me to look through it from his viewpoint of how he was maturing me for the season that I'm in now. And without that turmoil or without going through that process, I don't think I'd be the man I am today. So that's why I tell people sometimes is that even though you may be going through a trial or you may be going through a hard time, you need to ask yourself, what is this building me for? How would I look on the other side of the hill? Everybody always get caught up on how tall the mountain is, but once we get to the top, we recognize how beautiful the view is. And then we realize on the way down how much easier it is than going up. So just keep your foot in front of each other, keep the trials, keep the past, keep your hand on the plow, and just keep moving forward. And let's see what's happening on the other side instead of complaining on this side.
Yeah, babe, that was so good. And I just love what you said because it made me think of, oftentimes we're in these situations and all we can see is the situation that's in front of us. And we can't see that this will pass. We will get past this. This is not a forever situation or circumstance, right? This is just something that we're going through right now. And we go through trials to really test our faith and to grow in our faith. And so I love how you said, where am I going to be on the other side of this? And that's a testament really to my life. So I'm Andrea Richardson, and I have gone through several things in my life as well. And it's funny, Jonathan and I talk about how our upbringings are different, and we'll talk about that, in the future. But, I had a lot of ups and downs, in my young adult life, and, it took some mistakes. It took some situations that I shouldn't have been in, to really get to where I am today, where I have this relationship with Jesus Christ, and I'm walking with the Lord and just trying to be the woman that He called me to be. And so in doing that, I'm an educator. I've been an educator for the last 13 years. I started teaching ELA at high school, and then, by God's hand, I've been able to move and do work you know, and now I'm working in the capacity as the director of arts for a network of schools. And so I'm so blessed to be in that position. And the biggest thing is that I just want God to continue to use me to be, a vessel for his truth, for his light, for his love to those who are not aware of it or maybe have forgotten it or just, have never experienced it. So when I think about, as Jonathan mentioned, leaving something for our children, our personal children, every day in my work, I also try to leave something with the children that I educate on a regular basis. And we'll get into like our journeys, our personal journeys and things like that. But we have a very different upbringing. But we've both been able to overcome things. And I'm just very grateful that I'm living in the answered prayers of my past. And I'm so grateful for my husband.
Ooh.
And with that, I want us to get into our origin story because a lot of people, we've been married for 7 years.
We have.
But a lot of people don't know about how crazy and unique our story really, really is. So, Jonathan, we'll piggyback off each other as we tell the story. But why don't you kick it off?
So here's the thing. We talked about preparation. We talked about getting to the mountaintop. We talked about walking over that hill. And as a tradition we do in my family is at the beginning of the year, before the year comes in, we pray the year in. And I had made it up in my mind that I'm ready to be married again. Like, I want a wife. I don't want no girlfriend. I want a wife. So one of my prayers was that the Lord would introduce me to a young lady that is more of the character that I was looking for, and that someone I can just grow old with and continue this journey and build businesses and build foundations and further along my family. So you have to put the work in to go along with your prayer. A lot of times people just like to say, "Oh, I want to be rich," but then they don't offer up anything. They don't offer anything up or how they should do it or how they should get there. God will give them a vision, and then they don't want to. They don't want to get behind it and put their hand to the plow. So I wanted a wife. I've already been blessed with a house, but I knew I had to do certain things to attract a wife, and I had to clean up certain lifestyles so that when I did get her, there would be no complications. So I wanted a wife. So I have my house already. I started praying and fasting so I can be introduced to her and not just and had different goals, things and different situations up so where I wouldn't be lured away. Because when you're praying for something, the devil hears it also, and he's going to try to insert different tasks and different hurdles and different things like that, so that he can get you off the destiny that God has for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's praying and fasting is definitely a big thing that guided me to here. And this is the craziest story because it doesn't happen like this. It really doesn't. It really doesn't happen like this. And I happen to be on Instagram. So, and I can tell you right now, you can find your wife on Instagram. I'm living proof. I'm 7 years in and you can find her. So the beautiful thing about it was literally I was on Instagram just scrolling and going through these different situations. And my good friend, Sid Walker, good old Sid, popped up on my feed. And he just happened to be taking a picture with this beautiful lady. Her name is Andrea.
Yes. So Sid and I, shout out to Sid, we played in a band together in our local city called the Bucket List Band. So, as I was saying, so I remember this night particularly because I was dealing with some insecurities and I was actually invited out by quite a few of my different friends and associates. And I was just like, no, I'm just not, you know how it is where it's like you get so wrapped up in your feelings and all the negativity that you just don't want to do anything. And I just had a moment, I like snapped out of it and I was like, I'm tripping. Like I have so much going for myself. I'm so blessed. I got my own place. Got a career and I take care of myself and I'm gorgeous. I am tripping. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go hang out. I'm just going to go say yes to all of these different invites. And so one of those was going to hang out with Sid and we took that picture. And I just think about that all the time. Like sometimes all it takes is a yes and you don't know what's on the other side of that yes. You can't, be afraid to say yes. And we took that picture and Sid posted it, and that's what Jonathan saw to made him want to slide in my DMs.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And the dope thing about it is the Bible tells you the man that finds a good wife. So sometimes you got to remember you have to be found. And I can't find you inside of your four walls if you never step out. So, and the one thing about faith is it's just putting one foot in front of the other one. So here's a PSA announcement to some people, for men and women: come outside your house, please.
Come outside. I know
Please.
one person I'm talking to. Come outside.
Come outside. She talking about my dog, but we ain't gonna go there. But so I ended up seeing the picture, and then I instantly saw it, and I was like, it's crazy because Said never pops up on my Instagram feed. Like, and that's my dog, Said Walker, but he never pops up on my Instagram feed. And he just happened to, I just on there scrolling, he pops up, and I was like, yo, I was like, who is that? So, my man raised no punk. So, you know, decided to get on that Instagram, hit Said up. I was like, yo, Said, who that is, man? He was like, oh, man, that's my dog. Hey, man, she's single. So I was like, hey, say less. I'll take it from here. So I ended up commenting under the picture, and then, Said was like, don't worry, I'm still involved. He's like, hey, at Andrea, did you see what my boy said?
Yeah.
So she saw it, she hearted it, playing hard to get it and all this stuff. You know how y'all like to be.
Because you got to. You got to fill them out, lady.
Yeah, playing hard to get. So, I slide in the DM, shoot her a little message, She let it sit for a minute. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna hold you. She let it sit for a little minute.
As any good woman should. Let it sit. Let it sit just for a minute.
She let it sit for a minute, and then we got to conversing inside of the DMs, and she broke my heart for the first time.
Wait. Slow down.
Nah,
So
she broke it, y'all. I ain't gonna. She tried to dance around and she broke it, man. She broke it. But go ahead. You can insert your part into it.
I don't know how I broke his heart already, but so we were chatting in the DMs, and we was doing that for a couple of weeks, and I was like, it was very just relaxed and non-committal, and okay, just getting to know you, what's up, what you about, etc., etc. And I remember before I go to the meetup, I remember when he said he had 3 kids. And I was like, "Oh my god, 3 kids." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he, explained the situation and elaborated, how it's from his previous marriage and, all that. That really set off a green flag for me because, I just had this mindset of what does that say about him as a man to, have, custody of his 3 children and be taking care of them full time on his own. And so that was something that really impressed me. And I really was like, okay, that made me pique my interest a little bit more. And so I kind of was like, okay, I got to meet this guy. And so the Bucket List Band and I, we had a performance coming up at Quarters, which no longer exists.
That breaks all our heart. If you from Baton Rouge, is where we were at, the hangout for all musicians and singers was Quarters.
Yeah.
Live bands, and they had gospel night. They had all different type of nights, spoken word, everything. And if you were a musician in Baton Rouge, you went to Quarters to perform at some point in time. And that was kind of the meetup spot.
Yeah.
So, the beautiful thing about it is, she jumped over a few things, because we were in the DMs and, somebody got in trouble at rehearsal because she was responding to the DMs instead of rehearsing. And, one of my wonderful friend, Kevin, was there. So, I had the inside line, I had a few friends that knew her. So my wonderful friend Kevin was there. I was like, yo, Kevin, what Andrea doing? He was like, yo, she texting. I was like, big dog, that's me.
Oh my God.
I just wanted to make sure, I had that inside hook, it's good to have friends. It's real good to have friends.
You never know when you're being watched. Okay.
So that was my dog, man. And, that just shows you how having good, honest friends can help push you into something that'll change your life forever. And, I thank God for Said. I thank God for Kevin. I thank God for all those guys, Tim West and the crew, for, kind of looking out for me and kind of, being the people that kind of hype me up to eventually meeting the woman that I turned into my wife.
Yeah. So we had the show, and the show went on, and, I'm singing, and it was great. And so I remember I kind of saw him at the end of the show, but I wasn't sure because, like at that time, all his pictures on Instagram was like a filter was on it. It's covering half his face. It's like him and other people in the picture. So it
Yo,
wasn't
now I'm
really.
being honest. Now I did have that. There was one picture on there that caught our eye. We every man. I guess y'all call them thirst traps now. So I did have that one. Picture that was. That would have filled a pitcher of water if you was thirsty. If you understand what I'm
Oh
saying.
my God. So I saw him and I was like, is that Jonathan? And I remember getting this feeling. They talk about butterflies. I've had that feeling, that nervousness multiple times in my life. But this feeling that I had when I saw him, it was weird. And I never, ever experienced that feeling in my stomach before and haven't since. And I was like, ooh, what is that? you know. Um, so the show went on, and of course, I've been singing and, you know, the groupies came to the stage, right? To
We ain't, we ain't gonna do them like that. But when you
yeah,
have
not really groupies. I'm just kidding.
when you at quarters and you have, you're a beautiful young lady, or you're an attractive male, you're on stage. So, a lot of people want to come interact with you, and we just got to be honest. People looking for love. So, you're going to get approached as a musician out here, as a singer. And, so a couple people came up, as a man, I'm fully confident in who I am. I'm confident to the 100%. My wife tells me that I need to calm it down.
But
Just a
he's
tad.
not gonna tell you. But not only were they coming up to me, but they were coming up to him, which speaks to what you said a little while ago when you spoke about how the devil will try to send distractions when you have something coming that's for you, that you prayed for, et cetera, et cetera. Because there was also some young ladies trying to make a pass as well. I mean, it was the nightlife. So you gonna talk about that?
I mean, you know, there were a few people approached me while I was in to come see her. But, to their defense, it was just a good looking man that walked in the room. So, you just gotta
Very good looking.
sometimes you just gotta realize that. And fellas, it's okay. Let me look, camera one. Fellas, let me talk to you. It is okay to understand and say that you look good. It's okay. Trust me, because women do it all the time. Show yourself some love and be honest with yourself. So yeah, but it was cool though. We walked in. I just told him, I'm kind of here. I'm an honest man up front, so I kind of told him I'm here to see someone. So I don't want to lead you on or play with your emotions because I'm actually here to see someone and she's singing. So I don't want it to be awkward for you if I don't pay you any mind tonight. So I was just straightforward and we kind of just they understood and kind of left it at that. But, a couple of them were a little, a little tipsy, I guess you can say. They were a little more understanding and you kind of just brushed them off. But yeah, man, I walked in. Actually, one of my friends, it turned out a lot of my friends were in there that night. So I walked in and hung out with the guys and, I walked up. I got to hear her sing. I got to see her in her element. And, when I walked in, I was like, she's the most beautiful person I've seen in the world. So before that, I was going to a flower shop and I was like, you know what? I got to be different. I got to find a way to set myself different from everybody else because she's a pretty girl. And she gets approached all the time, and she still is pretty, she still gets approached. So I was like, what can I do to show my intentions? Because I had already talked to the Lord. I talked, we had our little powwow. I was like, God, hey, man, your boy trying to get married, your boy really trying to get married. So, let's make this happen, Captain. So, yeah. So before I met her, I didn't know I was going to meet her. So, I went to a wonderful flower shop and I met this beautiful old lady. I wish I remember her name. God, I wish I remember her name. And I went to buy a dozen roses. She was like, who you buying it for? I said, I'm meeting this young lady tonight. And she was pretty much saying that instead of buying one dozen, why don't you buy 2 dozen? That'll definitely make you look different and set you off from where you want to be. So I ended up buying 2 dozen red roses and I drove to the grind to meet her and I left them in the actual car because I wanted to. I know how it is in there. I've been there. I've done photo shoots there. I played there, and I know how it can be chaotic. So I wanted time alone with her. So I made sure I left it in the car, and I set it up for that, and she'll jump into that wonderful side
Yeah.
of it.
So I went to the car. Now, when we were in the DMs, he was like, he's a drummer. And I was like, I'm a singer. And at this time, I was also just still trying to work on releasing music and putting out, my own solo projects. And I was like, I want to learn how to play one of those hand drums so that I can, make my own drums because I can't. I mean, I've dabbled in music production and everything like that.
The funny thing, she was talking about congas,
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
that, yeah, that's not going to help you do
So
that. So
when we were leaving, and he was like, "Make sure you come see me before you leave because I got something for you." I'm thinking he brought me some drums. I'm like, "Oh, okay, bet drums." So I'm looking for him. I'm asking his friend, "Hey, did Jonathan leave?" And they was like, "No, he outside." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I go outside, and he's at his truck. Or you were at another vehicle with some guys, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go get my car." He was like, "Yeah, just pull around, just pull around." And so I pull around, and I'm on the phone with someone else, and who is a friend, and I'm just making sure that the friend makes it home safely. And I'm like, okay, I'll pull around. So I pull around, and he's standing there at the driver's window, and he whips out a dozen red roses. And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. These are so beautiful." I love flowers, absolutely love flowers. And I took the flowers, I turned to my right to put them on the passenger seat, and I turned back to my left, and there was another dozen red roses. So I was like, "I gotta call you back."
yeah, that's how you do it, fellas. The phone call ended. 100% attention was on me. I thank this wonderful old lady that's at the flower shop. You put me on game. I appreciate you.
Yes, and I was like, "Wow." And, like he said, his intentions were made clear because I was like, "Okay, 2 dozen red roses," and it's not that, like, roses are like, "Oh my god, it's so expensive," which, ladies, by the way, let me say, it's not the dollar amount that matters, it's the intention and the attention to detail that matters, okay? It was the effort that matters, right? And so, when I got the first dozen, it was like, "Oh, he gave them to me because I'm a singer and I did a show." That's customary when you're doing performance. But the second dozen, it spoke to something else. It was like, okay, he's trying to get my attention. And that's where I hung up the phone because I was like, "Oh, I need to pay closer attention to what's going on here." And now, guys, don't think you can just buy 2 dozen red roses and that's gonna be enough. There were other things as well. Like, for example, during our conversations, there were things that, you know, he would say that I prayed a man would think about me. And like verbatim, these things were coming out of his mouth. And I'm like, "Okay, who sent you? Who sent you? And what do you want?" Of course we had that defense. But I mean, it was definitely divine. And so once I got the roses, this is where I broke his heart apparently. And you want to speak on that part?
Yeah, so let me back in there, fellas. So yeah, this is where she broke my heart for the first time. I was like, oh, I thought I had achieved my mission. So I put my number in the DMs, fellas. I told her to call me. She act like she didn't see it. It stayed in there for a minute, and I didn't get a phone call. So then, I had to double back because I was on a mission. I was like, look, I left my number in here because I want to talk to you. Talking on Instagram DMs is fine, but I want to hear your voice. I want to have deeper conversations because I'm not just in this to date. I'm in this to find a wife. So eventually she did give me a phone call. And then after that, man, it was phone calls every day. She'll go to sleep on the phone with me. And we just started building our different type of relationship, FaceTime calls, I have this wonderful picture of her, that she still to this day, it just reminds you of that first start of a something beautiful that's going to transpire to where she's actually playing with the rose petals in the window while she's on FaceTime with me. And I used to sneak little photos of her all the time while we on FaceTime, just so I can, you know, it's funny how all this stuff leads into what your passion turns into. Because I wasn't even a photographer then, but I
Mhm.
understood the importance of a photo. I understood the importance of capturing emotions. And those are certain emotions that I wanted to remember, but not only me, I wanted to make sure that she could remember because we were two people that were on two different paths that came together to make something beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we talked from that day every day after that. And it's just been this journey, this life changing, challenging, beautiful, wonderful, scary, but absolutely 100% would do it again. 10 out of 10 recommend journey. And to give it some context, it happened very fast. So he saw the picture of me February 24th. How do I know that? Because the note that he sent, well, he later would send flowers to my job regularly, so to the fact that I had him in my phone as Flower King. But, we he slid into my DMs on February 24th. He came to our show that was on March, 2nd. We had our first date March 9th. April 1st, I told him, "It's official, we're dating, and you need to go ahead and change your relationship status on Facebook and let everybody know. Go ahead and let your girls know that you're taken and it's over with." And then June 1st, he proposed. And we started to plan a wedding, but I was like, you know, June 21st, we went and got that license, that marriage certificate, and we've been married ever since June 21st, 2018. So that's a very short time frame. That's months.
Yeah, but here's the beautiful thing about having a father as a pastor. You don't have to pay a man to marry you. I just went straight, "Hey, Pop, let me just sign his license and go ahead and hit that wonderful do you. I do you. She said she do. Thank you so much." We went down and filed that paperwork and we were married. But, is when you know, and when God's involved, it doesn't take 3 years to understand what you want in life and who you want to be with. And I'm thankful for it because even though it transpired fast with a strong bond. And with a strong bond, nothing can be broken. So
Yeah.
I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the patience that he gave me. I'm thankful for him opening my eyes so I was able to find my wife. And I'm thankful for creating my wife because without her being created, I wouldn't have her because I truly believe she is the only piece to the puzzle that I had. So,
And when the Bible says he who finds a wife, like, let me clarify. We live in the same city for majority, I mean, all of his life, majority of my life other than summers and holidays when I would go to Memphis, Tennessee to visit my other family. But we know a lot of the same people. I mean, he's a musician, has been a performing drummer for since he was in his teens. And I've been singing with some of the same people in the same crowds. We've been in the same rooms, over the lap before we got married, before we even met each other.
yeah.
And we were not visible to one another.
We were at the same shows. That's the
Mhm.
craziest thing. A friend of mine used to have birthday party shows. I was there and she was there. We were at the same
Yeah.
exact show. There was one show where she was in the crowd at the varsity and I was in the back room on the green stage waiting to come on and play. That's how close we've been. We were literally 10 feet from each other,
Yeah.
but never met each other.
So when God has something for you, number one, the Bible says no man can asunder. And what that means is that not even you can get in the way of it. You can get in the way of it by a lack of obedience. You can get in the way of it by a lack of faith. But what God has for you is ultimately for you. And when I met Jonathan, I truly, you know, I would just sit in my car sometimes and just like from leaving and I would just cry because I would just be like so overwhelmed with just how beautiful the entire situation is. I mean, not just Jonathan, but his family. I remember the first time I hugged his mom, I met his mom. I mean, just the warmth that, emanated from her. I was like, "Oh my God, this feels like home." I remember, the first time I met the boys, it was, they were nervous, I was nervous. It was like, they filled a void in my heart and I just words cannot describe the entire experience. Like it was very um blissful. I don't wanna say magical, but it was absolutely just you could tell that God had his hand in it because it was like Andrea, little Andrea over here, and then all of this world that he had set up for me, and he just had to get me there. And it was like everything that I had been through prior to that had led me to getting here. And so I'm just so grateful for my husband, and I'm so grateful for our life, and happy anniversary.
Ooh, happy anniversary, mama. And I was a straightforward person, so I told her once I got to know her, and I don't even think it was like 2 weeks in of us talking on phone calls, and I was like, yeah, you're gonna be my wife.
He did say that.
I was like, you're gonna be my wife.
He said that all the time.
I am 100% knowing that eventually I'm going to put a ring on your finger and change your last name. And I used to tell her that. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you're my wife. So, you need to wrap your mind around it
Yeah,
because
that's what he was
I've
saying.
already wrapped my mind around it and you're already in my heart and you're my wife. So you just need to get used to saying Andrea Richardson.
Andrea Richardson. Mhm.
And that's how we got to this wonderful point in our life. And it's just simple. Some things we make hard that don't have to be that hard. And we just have to have understanding and have our hearts open because one of the things that we run into is we ask God for things that deal with the heart, but then we have our heart cold as stone. So if you're looking for love, you need to make sure that you're willing to open your heart up. And that comes with a double-edged sword because if you open your heart up, you can be hurt, especially if your feet are not guided and you are not watching what you're doing. But here's the other side of it. If you do open your heart up, maybe your heart won't get hurt. Maybe your heart will finally become whole. And that's the beautiful aspect of it because I believe God introduced my wife to me and my heart became whole again because Adam was lonely and then Eve came and he came from out of her. Well, she came out of him. And I do honestly believe that I found the missing rib that I needed in my life. So, when you have these type of conversations and, I know people want us to be all the way politically correct or speak wonderfully, but when you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with certain stories, you're going to get caught up with words. You're just remembering at the same time as you're talking. And I can just remember knowing when I finally found the other aspect of my rib. And I love you, boo, and I
I love you
appreciate
too,
you. And
baby.
look at her; she's something. Y'all can't see the dancing she's doing, but she's something, and I believe she's one of the greatest joys that God has introduced to my life.
That's so sweet.
Ooh, but yeah, so man, time goes by fast. Like,
Yeah.
man, you sit down and have a conversation. You think this is going to be crazy. You think that this is going to be extremely hard, but you soon realize that once you're just talking with pure emotions and straight from the heart, it comes naturally. It feels good. And it goes back to the name. Therapy first starts with a conversation, and we're just having conversations with a biblical aspect. So my name is Jonathan,
And I'm Andrea.
and this is Righteous Therapy.